Imagine waking up one morning and the month of April no longer exists. Not because of some calendar reform, not because of science, but because one man decided, your head of state, that April should now be named after his mother. And January? That's now named after him. Bread? He renamed that too. He fired every doctor in the country outside the capital and told sick people to just travel. He put his book inside mosques next to the Quran. He built a gold statue of himself that rotated to follow the sun, so his golden face was always watching. And this wasn't ancient history. This wasn't some medieval king. This happened in the 2000s. His name was Saparmurat Niyazov. And this is the story of the man who didn't just rule a country, he rewrote reality itself. Where on earth is Turkmenistan? Before we get to the madness, let's get oriented. Turkmenistan sits in Central Asia, bordered by Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and the Caspian Sea. It's roughly the size of Spain, but with a population of only about 6 million people. Most of the country is the Karakum Desert. Vast, flat, unforgiving. It's one of the most isolated nations on Earth, not because of geography alone, but because of deliberate policy. Foreign journalists were rarely allowed in. Tourists needed government-approved guides at all times. Internet access was almost non-existent for ordinary citizens. And underneath all that sand, enormous reserves of natural gas, some of the largest in the world. That gas became the fuel for one of the most bizarre personality cults in modern history. Now, who was the man at the center of all this? The orphan who became God. Saparmurat Niyazov was born in 1940, near the capital Ashgabat. His early life was defined by tragedy. When he was just 8 years old, a catastrophic earthquake struck the region. His mother and 2 brothers were killed. His father had already died in World War II. Niyazov was left completely alone, sent to grow up in a Soviet orphanage. Think about what that does to a person. No family, no roots, a child in a system that was indifferent to him at best. He climbed, slowly and strategically, through the Soviet Communist Party. He was disciplined, fluent in both Russian and Turkmen. By 1985, Gorbachev appointed him first Secretary of the Turkmen Soviet Republic, the highest position in the region. Then the Soviet Union collapsed, and something happened to Niyazov. In 1991, Turkmenistan became independent, and Niyazov became its first president. For a brief window, he seemed like a normal transitional leader, but with no opposition, no free press, and a country full of gas money. The restraints that had always kept him in check were suddenly gone, and the man who had spent his childhood with nothing decided he would have everything, building a god. The first signs were subtle, as they always are. He renamed the country's second largest city after himself, Turkmenbashi, meaning leader of the Turkmen. Streets, schools, airports all followed. Then a crater on the moon. Then a breed of horse. Then a meteorite. But the architecture was where things got truly surreal. He transformed the capital, Ashgabat, into a white marble ghost city. Enormous empty palaces, gold-domed government buildings, vast plazas with no people in them. And at the center of it all, a 246-foot rotating golden statue of himself, mounted on a tripod tower, engineered to always face the sun. His golden face, always watching, always following the light. His image appeared on every banknote, on vodka bottles, on the corner of every television broadcast, in every government building. There was a 9,700 square foot carpet woven in his honor. He hadn't just become president. He had become the country. When he rewrote the calendar, here's where things cross a line that's hard to comprehend. In 2002, Niyazov decided the calendar itself wasn't good enough. January was renamed Turkmenbashi, after his own title. April was renamed Gurbansoltan, after his mother. September was renamed Ruhnama, after a book he had written. Every month of the year was reassigned to honor him, his family, or concepts he approved of. Children learned these names in school. Government documents used them exclusively. Weather forecasters announced temperatures for Gurbansoltan, not April. The entire nation operated on Niyazov Standard Time. Days of the week were also renamed. Think about what this means psychologically. Every single time a citizen checked the date, every time they wrote a letter, every time they told someone their birthday, they were invoking his name. Reality itself had been branded, and he didn't stop with the calendar. The bands that defy belief. Ballet, banned. Opera, banned. The circus, banned. All declared un-Turkmen, foreign. Corruptions that had no place in his vision of national purity. Beards on men, banned. Long hair, banned. Gold teeth, discouraged so strongly it was effectively banned. His reasoning, and I want you to hear this directly, he told citizens to chew on bones like dogs to strengthen their teeth naturally. He banned recorded music at public events, live performances only. He banned newscasters from wearing makeup, saying he couldn't tell the men from the women. He banned car radios. He banned video games. He banned dogs from the capital, too smelly. And then he built an ice rink in the middle of a desert nation so that Turkmen people could learn to ice skate, a sport with no cultural history there whatsoever, because he thought it looked impressive. But none of his bans were as deadly as what he did to healthcare. The decree that killed people. In 2004, Niyazov fired 15,000 doctors and nurses across the country, replacing qualified medical professionals with military conscripts. The following year, he closed every hospital and clinic outside the capital Ashgabat. His reasoning: if people are ill, they can come to Ashgabat. Ashgabat, a city that some citizens lived nearly 1,000 kilometers away from. In a country where most people had no car, no money, and no reliable infrastructure. A heart attack, a complicated birth, a serious injury, any of these could now be a death sentence. Emergency medicine ceased to exist for the majority of the population. At the same time, he closed all rural libraries. His reasoning? People in the countryside don't read anyway. He also required all government employees to pass an exam on his book, the Ruhnama, before they could be hired. The same book was required knowledge for the national driving test. And that book? He claimed it was divinely inspired. He had it placed inside mosques, alongside the Quran. He said that reading it 3 times would guarantee you a place in heaven. The man who grew up with nothing had written his way into eternity. The end, and what it left behind. On December 21st, 2006, Saparmurat Niyazov died of heart failure. He was 66 years old. He had ruled for 21 years. He died in the city he had transformed into a monument to himself, surrounded by his own image. His successor was his personal dentist, the man who had replaced gold teeth with white enamel at Niyazov's request. That dentist, Gurbansoltan, reversed the renamed months. He removed the rotating gold statue. He allowed ballet to return. But the authoritarian system? That stayed. Gurbansoltan went on to build his own personality cult, naming things after himself, installing his face on public buildings, writing his own books. He eventually handed power to his son, making Turkmenistan an effective dynasty. The madness of one orphan had calcified into the permanent structure of a state. Why this matters? Niyazov is easy to laugh at. The renamed months, the bone-chewing advice, the rotating gold statue. It reads like satire. But behind every absurd decree were real people. Families who couldn't get their sick, relatives to a hospital, students who had to memorize a dictator's autobiography to get a driver's license, doctors who lost their jobs overnight, citizens who lived their entire lives, unable to speak freely about any of it. The story of Turkmenistan under Niyazov isn't just a curiosity. It's a case study in what happens when one person has unlimited power and no one left to say no. Because the truly terrifying part isn't that he renamed the months. It's that it worked. If you found this interesting, the world has more stories like this than you'd ever imagine. Subscribe, and we'll keep finding them.